YouTube land. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe. Please hit like. And I got a question the other day, do I provide servicing to people other than myself? And yes, I do. In fact, all the watches I work on are from other people. I don't do a lot of watch work because I don't consider this to be a stream of revenue for me. However, where people have old watches, vintage watches that they want to have repaired and give to their kids, I kind of do this as a service as well. So you can contact me at jdwatchservice@gmail.com, jdwatchservice@gmail.com, and I'll put that up in the video. So here we have a Tudor Princess Oyster Date rotor self-winding. This is a lady's watch, which I don't like doing, by the way, but it was provided to me by a previous customer whose watches I repaired, and he asked me, could you have a look at this watch and work on it? And I said, damn, yeah, okay, I'll do it, just because it's you. And here's a picture of the movement. I have this in a watch tray here, and it's in pretty good condition, but there was a major problem with this watch. And it's not here. This is the Tudor the rotor, and the rotor self-winding mechanism, as you can see on the left, and all that is intact and in good shape. The stem on this Tudor seems to be in very good shape as well. There's no issue with the stem. And herein lies the issue. If you have a quick look at this watch and you look, and I'll get a close-up of this, but you look right here, the tip of my tweezers here, you'll see a kink in the hairspring. So there's an actual kink in this hairspring. I'm not sure if this hairspring is available for procurement, but what I'm going to try to do today is take the kink out of this hairspring. This is a very tough job. I'm not sure if I'm going to be successful with it or not. I know I can't heat anything up to anneal the hairspring, because that would probably turn the hairspring into a little tiny fireball. So that's not a good idea. So I need to take the kink out of this hairspring, but I'm going to have do a close look up at this hairspring right now, just so you can see what it looks like. And there's the kink in the hairspring in the center of your screen here. I'm holding the tray here, a little bit wobbly, but that kink in the hairspring, as you can see with the regulator pins, was caused by somebody moving the regulator and the hairspring kind of getting stuck and then bending downward instead of riding the hairspring through the regulator pins. And when I looked at the regulator pins closely, I realized they were actually crooked. There's a quick picture of the regulator pins, and they're kind of crooked, which would cause that hairspring to kink up. And it kinked downward towards the stud and then up to the stud, and there's a pretty major kink in there. So I've got to disassemble this and try to get that hairspring, take that hairspring off as well, and then see if I can address the kink in this hairspring. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove this balance from the tray. Just lift it up and then move the tray out of the way and then place it down on the mat here. Like that. So to do this work, I have these very fine tweezers. They're called Voila. They're made in Italy, as you can see, and I've got a bunch of them that I've procured. And I think these will be a lot better than the current tweezers I'm using, the brass ones, because the brass ones are, if you look at there we go, if you look at the difference between the two, these ones are so precise and the brass ones are kind of general. They're good for pocket watch work, but they will not work for this particular work. So here I was able to put this balance on one of my existing tacks here. It's just floating there. I may move it to a different balance tack, because I do have another one here that might support the movement a bit better. Now with this balance tack, I can move the stud a bit closer here. It's still really small, but I could move this closer, and I can spin this upward a bit to allow the balance to be kind of closer to where it needs to be. When I let this thing go, it won't fall too far. So here I just want to make sure I've got aligned it fairly well here. So just move that like that. And I'm just going to reel this thing up a bit, very carefully. And see, now I know it's touching there. So if I move the balance with the pivot over just a bit, I probably could get this centered over the hole and just drop the balance down on that. So now the balance is just resting there, and I'm hoping I can work on this very carefully. I may put a piece of Rodico on the top of the stud just to keep it in place. So here I'm looking at the regulator pins at extreme closeness here, and I just want to see which way they are bent. And this way, if I can rotate them back, yeah, I can see that. So I'd have to rotate the top clockwise, and that way when I take the stud out, the regulator pins shouldn't cause any more bend in this. So I'm just going to work on that right now and see if I can do that. So here I'm going to very carefully rotate this top of the regulator here so that it is more aligned, because I think the pins have twisted and they're not as aligned. So let me just move that into view here. So I'm going to put my finger over the top as I do this to see if this is an easy job or not. There we go. So that is now aligned. Now when I take this stud out, it is likely going to just fall straight down. So I don't think there's anything I can do about that. Alright, what I'm going to do here to remove this stud is I'm going to put the screwdriver inside the hole here of the stud and see if this will work its way out. Okay, here I did this out of camera view thinking it wasn't going to work, but I just kind of stuck the screwdriver in there and then pulled back, and the stud did come out. So it's out now. And now I just have to milk the hairspring out of the regulator pins, I think. I think I may have to look at this a bit closer from the other side, because I don't know if there's any. Oh, there, it just fell out on its own. So there we go. So now I just lift this up here and have a look at what I've got. This is the balance cock here, and I just put this aside, drop that aside, and let's just get a close-up of what we got here. So again, if you look at this kink, you'll see that it works its way from up here, right around here, and it goes down like this, and then it creates a little bowl, and then goes up, and then there's a pretty significant kink right here before it gets that stud. So I may stud the table, the hairspring, to try to get rid of that kink. So we'll see whether I take this off or not. I'm not sure. So even though I would love to show you this process, what I think I'm going to be forced to do is work under my stereo microscope. And what I'll be doing is grabbing this hairspring ever so carefully, like this, for example, and then milking the other hairspring piece over. So, and I'm not sure, they're not magnetic, good. So I'll just take this and then be bending it and milking it over. So I don't think I can do it under these conditions. I believe I need to go under my stereo microscope to do this work. So there's a picture I'm getting from my digital microscope pointing at the object, so now I can use my stereo microscope to do the work and the digital microscope to record. Alright, let's get at the work here and see if this is possible. Let's see if this is possible. There's one major bend in this thing that's I don't think is possible to fix, but yeah, it's all about technique here. And these, I may get my brass tweezers out here because they're a little less aggressive when it comes to grabbing the spring. I find that these tweezers here got to put a bit of pressure on there to actually make them work properly. Let that go. I know that if I squish, I'm just going to clean these off with Rodico a bit. This is trial and error. It'd be funny if my old tweezers are the best ones. I'm going to get a couple pairs of brass ones here. I know I can work with these a little lighter. So these other tweezers are more precise, but they feel like I've got to press down pretty hard to get a grip on them. So I'm going to go and try these ones here for a second. It's a bit better. Trying to grab it right where the bend is and push up. That's not too bad there. And now I've got to rotate this just a bit to get at this part here. So just rotate this just a bit. I'm telling you, this is hairy work. I call it hairy work because it's just, you got to have the patience of a neurosurgeon to get this thing done properly. Now I've got this. I'm going to press this Rodico down a bit so it's got a bit of a grip on it. And then I'm going back in to remove the brain cells here. I may have to use the other tweezers here just a bit to, so I just grabbed the stud there and pulled. See if I could get a bit of that bend out. Yeah, I'm going to have to grab the other tweezers again to get an inward grip on this. I can hear my wife walking around downstairs, which is totally distracting me. Because I'm worried that she'll knock on the door any second now, which will further distract me. Alright, that's not too bad there. So that's the second bend. Now I'm going to go do the third bend. So just as I start working on this, there's a fly in my office. But let's continue, fly or no fly. So thinking if I just squeeze this a bit, it might straighten it up. But I'll just grab it like this and just bend it upward. And if I grab it a little bit more, I could squeeze the bump out of it. I'm going to see if I can go to my other tweezers for a second now. Alright, now I've worked the hairspring around here in a circle, just kind of pushing it and moving it. I actually forgot to hit the record button as I did most of this, but I'm just grabbing it like this and then pushing it and moving it, but I'm pretty much done with one exception. The stud needs to be twisted inward more, and it needs to be bent a bit. So it seems right where the stud is, there's a kink in the hairspring. This could be tricky as heck to get rid of, but I'm going to try to get rid of that kink and see if I can, you can see that kink right where that stud is. Not so good. Not so good. I'm going to move this around so it's left is right, up is down, down is left. I'm not sure what to do here, so let's get this kink out now. Put a little bit of an angle on it, that way I can grab it properly. And I'm going to get my other tweezers out here, and I'm not sure, I need the very precise tweezers in this hand and the other tweezers in this hand, and try not to shake too much. That's not too bad right there. Maybe just one more little turn, as I know I've got to flatten it out again. So I just realign it in my microscope here, right like that. And so I'm kind of centering it in my microscope. There we go. That is really good right there. And I'm just going to squeeze the hairspring on the edge and then just show you what I got. Let me see. Go like this, rotate it. I think it's looking pretty darn flat right now. Get the other hairspring thingamajobby out. I just poked myself. Time to do a blood test. And I'm just doing a continuous of this thing here, right? So but I want to rotate it just a tiny bit inward. There we go. I think that is as good as it gets, folks. Let me just do a little close-up of this so you can see the work I've done. All right, there's the hairspring. So I straightened that out. I've milked it around the corner. That, my friends, might just fix this hairspring. So I'm going to take this whole rig and throw it into lighter fluid just to get any dust or anything off that hairspring that might not work well. That might be a conformance issue with respect to the regulator pins riding along the hairspring. Plus, let's have a quick look at the regulator pins to make sure that they're in the right position now, as they weren't before. So it wasn't very good before. So let's just have a look at that, and I'm going to end the video pretty soon. Now you see from this video here that the regulator pins right there are at a bit of an angle. See, they're right there. They're a bit of an angle, so you're going to have to straighten them up a bit by twisting the regulator pins into shape. So let's do that. Alright, there's the regulator from the top. Let me point it. There it is right there. It's at a bit of an angle here, and I think it should be straight this way. And I'll show you why. The reason why is that the shape of the hairspring going through the regulator would be going through this way, like that. And I'm not sure if that's appropriate. I've already twisted the pins here, so I'm not absolutely sure if that's appropriate. But it goes this way, which I thought it should be a little flatter or turn just a slight bit more. So I'm not sure whether that, if I turn them, I could turn them from the other side. I just have to make sure that the hairspring goes through the regulator and doesn't go through the wrong way. So this is going to be a bit tricky with the reassembly, but I just want to make sure that you saw the job I did straightening that hairspring. So this is hairspring only, and I'll reassemble this hairspring on the watch a little bit later. So I know that regulator will move, so the regulator position can move. Let me just flip that around actively. So here's the regulator now, and we've got the screw here, and it's kind of an off-centered screw that makes the regulator pins move away from where the stud is. And when I reassemble this watch, I do want this to be away from where the stud is, but I'd like to straighten this out right here. So I think I could just grab that and straighten it out. I have to hold down the regulator with my finger, I think, and make sure I don't bend those pins. So I just grab it like that, and then when I twist this, it's going to straighten the pins out. Just give that a bit of a twist, I think, like that. There, that's 100% aligned right now. So when I flip this thing over, and I have to move this away with a screwdriver. So let's do that a bit. So I'll hold the regulator down, and I'll just get the screwdriver in here and see if I can move this. And hopefully this is moving away. Yes, it is. Doesn't take much. This is the regulator is pretty darn close to this, so when I move it away, that speeds up the watch. So I've got it pretty far. Yeah, you turn it counterclockwise to a position because it's offset. So now it's as far as it's going to be away from that. And the pins, I turn the regulator around. Of course, I meant turn the balance around. If I turn the balance around, you can see the opening. The hairspring would go this way, like that, and the opening is right there. So the question is how to reinstall this. So I have the hairspring in there perfectly as I push the stud into its movement here, and make sure that everything is aligned properly. So I'm going to do that. I think I may also dip this thing in alcohol too to make sure the jewel is completely cleaned out before I put a little bit of oil on it, and go from there. So that's it. That's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed that. I did as much as I could to show you how I worked the spring. I did have the camera off for a portion of that where I actually straightened out some of it. I'm sorry about that, but I didn't realize it. I was trying to focus. And let's do this again sometime. I'm JD. Please subscribe. Please hit like. And I hope you really enjoyed this micro video. Got quite a good setup right now. And I'll catch you later.